I'm astrologer and life coach Penny Dix. Welcome to my YouTube channel and welcome to November's in-depth look at the full moon total lunar eclipse in Taurus, which is on the 8th of November. So will this bring powerful changes? Well, I will endeavour to explain how I feel the astrological energies are going to play out for this particular lunar eclipse. And remember, after this short overview, you can go to all your zodiac signs and rising signs, also known as the ascendant, which are now all time-stamped in the description box to make it easier for you to navigate the full moon. And also that's going to be ongoing now with the full moons and the new moons. They'll all have the zodiac signs time-stamped. Okay, so with no further ado, let's get on and see how this eclipse is going to affect everything. Well, first of all, we have to look at the energy it's in. It's in Taurus. It's conjunct Uranus. Uranus is the planet of the unexpected, of enormous shifts in energy, of change. Taurus is about the material world. It's about our possessions. It's about our finances. It's about the economy. It's also about our value. How much do we value ourselves? How much do we value others? Now, the full moon brings in the energies of its opposite sign, which of course is Scorpio, where we had that partial solar eclipse, new moon, on the 25th of October. And that brought in significant change also. And we're still actually feeling that energy. So it is very much about the economy, this particular full moon lunar eclipse, because of the joint finances that can be represented by the Scorpio energy. So I think we are going to see some kind of sort of rumblings again in the world economy and local economies, where things just become a little bit uncertain and insecure for people. Also, Mercury, our planet of communication, is now in Scorpio and it's conjunct the sun. So it's actually opposite the full moon and Uranus. Now, Scorpio keeps things hidden. And I just wonder if this represents a lot of talk going on behind the scenes that we don't hear. And that actually the full moon, because eventually the moon moves, so the shadow of the earth moves off the moon, so we get the full moon revealed. I wonder what secrets might be revealed around this time. It's been interesting because in the UK, for example, Liz Truss, the last Prime Minister, the one that was there for just a short while after Boris, and we now have another Prime Minister, and I'm going to come to him in a minute, but Liz Truss had to keep quiet about the fact that her personal mobile phone had been hacked. And what I found extraordinary was they had to have a news blackout about it, because they felt that it was probably Russia that had hacked her phone and found very sensitive conversations and messages that she'd had with significant world leaders. No wonder the poor love looked pretty stressed during her brief prime ministership. She must have been stressed to the eyeballs, poor love. I actually have some sympathy for her now, because also just going back to that October the 25th new moon partial solar eclipse, that squared her natal sun in Leo. That's why she went. And she went literally just before then. And, you know, we know the rest. So what is the other energy that we've got going on with this eclipse? Because we've also got our dynamic planet Saturn Saturn, remember, is about limitations. It's also about timing. Now, Saturn is making what we call a T-square. So that's like this or like this. And it's between the Sun and Mercury in Scorpio and the Moon and Uranus, and loosely the North Node in Taurus. So there's a real tension here. You've got this energy being pulled and Saturn holding the reins and just saying, no, nothing is going to shift or move till I say so. So quite tough, fixed, unable to move out of it. We might feel like that about certain situations in our lives. We may feel restricted and I just want to get things moving and get things done, and somehow we just can't get them moving. So, and we've also, of course, because we've still got the energy in this T-square of Saturn square Uranus, because Uranus is about freedom. Uranus just wants to break out. And Saturn, again, is holding on. Now, that square is going to ease off because Saturn is now direct. So we will, over the next few weeks, start to see a little bit of easing of that energy. But we've also got to look at the fact that Mars in Gemini, that is now retrograde, on one hand is making a nice trine aspect to Saturn. So that is helpful energy whilst we have this lunar eclipse. That will be kind of like some action is good, some action is helpful, but it needs to be action that is well thought through, because Mars is in Gemini. It's an air sign, it's about thought. So think things through. But Mars, also retrograde, is squaring both Jupiter and Neptune, now nearly conjunct again in Pisces. So there's a sense of misinformation, disinformation, smoke and mirrors, hidden things. And because of that Mercury in Scorpio, I just feel that there are going to be things going on, like with the Liz Truss situation that I mentioned, that we will not know about till quite a bit later. So it's as if there could be events that happen literally around the time of the full moon that we don't hear about for some time. Unless it's kind of on the dark web. I don't know what that is. I've never been on the dark web, but it all sounds very scorpionic and exciting. So how's this all going to affect the planet? Well, I think we will see turmoil in the world economy again. I mean, it's so boring. I say this every time, don't I? Believe me, it will change, but not just yet. And this is a time for us to be just frugal, to be prudent, to be very mindful about how we spend our pennies, not me, or going to the loo, but how we spend our hard-earned cash. So I think it will not just be political events that cause the turmoil, because that's usually what happens with turmoil in the world markets, is there have been major political events that upset everything. But I actually think there could be earth events that are outside of our control, because Uranus is about, or can be about, the tectonic plates shifting. We could see earthquakes, not necessarily on the day, but over the next 6 months. We could see volcanic activity. And even though I say it doesn't necessarily happen on the day, the fact that it's a full moon lunar eclipse means that the energy, the gravitational pull of the moon on the tectonic plates on that day is stronger. So it might trigger something that comes a little bit later. So we just have to bear in mind that there probably will be events that are outside of our control that kind of might take over and affect the kind of the way things are moving forward. Now, what about the UK? Because I've already mentioned Liz Truss, because I thought it would be interesting to look at how it affects the new Prime Minister. How many have we had? Rishi Sunak. Because I do think, having looked at his chart, he too will be making some surprising decisions with this eclipse energy that may not make him very popular. And again, I think he might do some U-turns. I mean, I don't know. I'm recording this on October the 31st, and I just wonder if he's going to have to make some concession about the climate. Well, I can't remember what it's called. COP, whatever it is. Where they're having it in Egypt, where they talk about climate change and that whole agenda. And I think if he doesn't go personally, he is going to have to send a pretty important kind of representative. So, but I also feel that whatever he's doing around this time is going to get overshadowed. So what he may feel are significantly good moves by world events, and, you know, what he's doing is making some really good progress with the local kind of UK situation. World events are going to overshadow what he's doing. So it kind of gets lost in the news. It doesn't really make the sort of the top headlines. So what are these world events? Haven't we had enough surprises over the last few years? Well, what I haven't mentioned yet, and is not an area that I'm an expert in at all, you will have to go to the channel of conscious medium Brandon Russ to hear what he says about the mid-term elections in the United States, because they just happen to be being held on the day of the total full moon lunar eclipse. I mean, you couldn't write it, could you? Who's out, who's in? It could be very significant, this eclipse, for the various participants in the elections. But I think what it could imply are surprising events that happen on the day and surprising results. But we can't sort of move on until we look at what about Russia. We have to look at Russia. You know what came to me with all of this energy? Because it's Uranus, which is about the internet and electricity. Are they going to just try and disrupt, or are they already trying to disrupt the West's communication systems? I mean, I don't want to give Mr. Putin any ideas, but it would be a smart move on their part if they have the ability to do so. And with Mercury, our planet of communication, in Scorpio, in opposition to the lunar eclipse, there certainly is an air of devious and underhand events to do with communication, especially as Saturn is in Aquarius in that square, that T-square, to the Sun and Mercury and to Uranus. But I think whatever, we're going to see internet slowdowns. I mean, interesting, I'm already seeing it here, where I live in Gozo, it's happening. But it's also, I have a friend who lives in one of the European countries, and we're having terrible trouble. And my friend was saying that where my friend works, they're also having a lot of problems with the internet and real slow reception. Now, Pluto, that is now direct in Capricorn, is sextiling both Neptune and Jupiter. Now, this, I think, is our guiding light of help. It's widely conjunct. It's sextiling both Neptune and Jupiter, widely conjunct in Pisces. And what this is saying is we need to trust that a divine power can show us all a better way forward. So how's it going to affect you personally? Because on a personal level, our fears may be triggered by this eclipse. as all these underhand dealings become public. So we need to keep grounded and take our time when presented with choices in whatever department of our lives, especially if it involves money. I think it's really important at this time to be mindful of internet scams due to that Saturn T-square, because I think scammers are going to find more and more devious ways to try and part us from our hard-earned cash, and to take advantage of the fact that people are finding it tough at the moment with cash flow. So self-imposed austerity to cope with the oncoming winter suggests we find other more adventurous ways to entertain ourselves and keep warm. And with retrograde Mars in Gemini, we need to be mindful of our actions. And I do think we need to make sure they come from a place of love. You know, if there's one thing we kind of forget sometimes, is that, you know, love can do an awful lot towards helping some kind of collective healing with each other, with ourselves. You know, even showing yourself love. Self-love, self-value, Taurus, is so important. And before I come to my final thoughts and go on to your individual signs, you know, Saturn reminds us everything is about timing. So is this a good eclipse or a bad eclipse? Well, I think it's how we deal with the events, because it may throw us off balance. And there could be dramatic changes in the world, or indeed in our own lives. But remember, for new growth, the old has to be dismantled. And yes, sometimes the life and death process is painful. But the promise of change is ultimately new birth. And you know what? The phoenix will always rise from Scorpio's ashes. Never forget that. And with regard to the actual day, well, probably get a bit of the usual sleepless nights and weird dreams. And sometimes we can just feel a bit off colour around eclipse full moon energy. So you need to find the balance in these energies as you continue your journey forward. Right, so now I'm going to come on to your individual sun signs and your rising signs, also known as the ascendant. So let's start with Aries. Aries, for you, this full moon is very much to do with your financial situation. And I think, like everybody at the moment, you are having to make some cutbacks. And I do feel that there could be some unexpected events that do impact your finances to a certain extent. And you're just going to have to be mindful of that and roll with it, because it won't be forever. But I think at the moment we're all collectively caught in this kind of difficult financial climate. And I hate to sound so depressing about it, but it's really, we've got to really take care of our own assets and budget as carefully as we can, because that's, for you especially, look at how and what you could invest that could bring you in a little bit more income. But make sure it's kosher, so to speak. Make sure it's nothing underhand because of that Scorpio energy. Taurus. Well, Taurus, this is all about you, isn't it? It's your full moon. And it's a lunar eclipse. So, are you coming out of the shadows? Are you transforming yourself in some way? What's going on with your personal relationships, your one-to-one relationships? Do things need to shift up a gear? Is there chatter or talk that needs to happen between you and a significant loved one? It may be that events that are happening in your life cause you to want to have some more serious kind of heart-to-hearts with your nearest and dearest. And that can also be business relationships that need a little bit of a shake-up. Blow the cobwebs left over from Halloween off, and dust off everything. It feels like you need to inject some energy, not only into yourself, but also into your relationships. Gemini. So Gemini, once again, this is very much about this part of you that is quite private. I think you're going through a lot of internal change. There's a lot of chatter going on in your mind because you've got Mars in your sign. I think on one level it's exhausted you a bit. So you've really got to learn to pace yourself. And now that Mars is retrograde, that will help you to just get a little bit more pace, especially as Saturn is making a trine to retrograde Mars. But where this full moon falls is really about your routine as well and your kind of psychological or mental health. I think you need to just take a pause, take some time out to reflect and think about what you want to unfold for the next 6 months. How do you want that to be? How do you want it to look for you? That's really important. Cancer. So for you, Cancer, is there something you've been working on that you've been keeping under wraps that you want to bring out into the open? There is very much a feel of that kind of energy with this particular full moon. And you know what? Sometimes this full moon, even though full moons are usually about endings, it could be in your case completion. That you've completed an important project. And over the next 6 months is the time for it to actually come out into the open, into the light. And it could even make you some money. There is that energy around with this particular full moon lunar eclipse for you. I think you're going to surprise a few people, Cancer. Leo. So Leo, for you, it's about your career. And actually, your career has been pretty active, hasn't it? And I think certain doors have opened, things have taken off. And this full moon eclipse, I think on one level, is giving you a chance to just pause and reflect and take stock of how far you've come and what your next what the next path is that you want to go down, how you want things to unfold in the coming months. Also, I think you have to look at what's going on at home, because it may be that there are certain members of your kind of close-knit circle, your family, that have been feeling a little bit left out and maybe kind of chattering away and saying, oh, all they do is get involved in their work and their career and then they haven't got time for me. So just have a think about that. Reflect on it with this full moon, Leo. So, Virgo. Well, what are you ready to reveal? Have you been learning something new or studying something for quite some time that you would really now like to make more public? And again, surprise a few people with the ideas that you've come up with. you may be planning some travel in the next 6 months, which would be quite unusual. As Uranus is involved, you might be going to do a tour of volcanoes and volcanic kind of landscape. I don't know where that came from. It just popped into my mind. So I just say these things when they pop in. So that energy is around. But really, Virgo, you've got to stop worrying. Just take it easy. You have got what it takes. Will you start doing it? Libra. So Libra, for you, this is to do with some kind of inner transformation that needs to take place for you. There's something in your life that needs to go, and that could be something that will raise you some cash. So you might be very seriously looking at selling something, whatever that might be. And there's something about this full moon that I think you will feel a little bit deflated, if anything, but it won't last. That may just be around the day. And I think in this part of the year, when it's just after your birthday season, it can feel a little bit like that. So just be mindful of that. But the other positive thing about this full moon is there is an ending to something which has been a little bit of a kind of a albatross round your neck. So you're going to shed something which you really will be very grateful that you've got rid of this. Scorpio. So of course this is in your opposite sign of Taurus. And it is about your significant, close, one-to-one relationships. If something is well past its sell-by date in ending, completely finishing, finito, gone, get rid of, then please do it, because this energy is saying it's not serving you well. Let it go. It could be that if you don't let go willingly, there will be unexpected events that will completely blow it apart. That sounds quite dramatic, and I don't mean it in that kind of intense, dramatic sense. It just feels as if the cosmos is trying to give you a little bit of a nudge. And the other interesting thing with this energy is that if you're single, if you'd like to not be single, this could bring quite an unexpected, potential, significant person into your life. Or a relationship you've already got with someone who is more like just a friend actually becomes much more, and you're really rather pleased about that. So let's move on to Sagittarius. Sagittarius, this is about your working routine. You really do need to take control of it and make the necessary changes to get it back into some kind of balance for you. There's been a lot of external events that have kind of thrown spanners in the works with what you're trying to do with your working routine, and it's actually affected your health. And I do think that this full moon eclipse will be making you feel, or could make you feel, some Sagittarians a little bit down. But if you do feel down, it's not going to last. And it's probably not really about anything in particular. You're just going to feel a bit down for those few days. It's like full moon blues, but it will soon pass, because actually this is fortunate, because I think you're going to make some significantly important decisions about your routine and how you expand or expend your energy to make it fit your schedule in a much better way. And now we come on to Capricorn. Capricorn. Well, you've had this kind of energy of Uranus in this part of your chart for some time now. And it's brought lots of kind of quite interesting social situations into your life and some interesting people. This full moon shows me that there are certain areas of your kind of friendship circle that you might be closing down, that you feel just no longer kind of serve you. And so you're deciding to close a chapter. But you know what, Capricorn, if we don't close chapters, we can't open the next one. So this is very much, I think, a full moon about whatever's meant to go, let it go. Let it go. Because it really will help you move forward and bring in the energy and the people that you really want to have in your life. Aquarius. So Aquarius, this is about the family. This is about your home. This could see you making more decisions about your living space. You may have had some ideas to move. You may be shelving them for a while. There may be situations with family members that are kind of getting in the way of you making some of the changes at home that you would like to make. Just be patient. Remember that Saturn is in this T-square. Saturn's in your sign. It's squaring this full moon that is in the area of your chart to do with your home life. Trust the delays. Trust the process. It will be okay. And finally, we come to Pisces, my oceans of emotions, my lovely fishes. Pisces, whew, have you written a book? Are you about to let it out into the world, into the cosmos? Because it's in the part of your chart to do with communication, which I think is quite interesting. And I actually know a couple of Pisces people who've been doing a lot of writing and a lot of interesting, energy around those areas. So on one hand, I think this is good energy for letting something out there into the world world in general. I also think with this energy, Pisces, it's about you being mindful of what you say, because communication is something you're quite good at, but you can tend to get a bit drifty with it. My Pisces moon sometimes takes me off at a tangent, which I'm sure if you're a regular viewer, you notice. And it's about finding some boundaries to what you're saying, about being clearer to what you're saying. Pisces, there are some things that need to be said that you're not saying. You've got to come out of the shadows. You've got to be the moon coming out of the earth's shadow and saying what needs to be said. Now, only you will know what that is, but say it. So there we go. So thank you, everyone, for coming to listen and watch this full moon total lunar eclipse in Taurus on the 8th of November. Thank you for joining me here. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. That would be super cool. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.